take this segregation, was not going to take this segregation law anymore. She's not going to take it anymore. And so she decided, I'll go to jail if that's what it takes to stand up against segregation. And she did. Edgar Daniel Nixon bailed her out of jail and used her arrest as a protest against segregation laws and unfair leadership. And because of that leadership, because of all that, the Montgomery bus boycott had begun. King Jr. became the president and speaker of the movement. And this bus boycott caused the bus systems to be put out of business. And because of that, King Jr. went and got, because of that, there were people who were taking taxis to work. They were walking, they carpooled, rode bikes and everything. And, places, and I'm sure gas stations were booming with business. But they decided these bus systems are not going, these segregated bus laws were just too much. You got a back row where there's a back full of African Americans, color only, just sitting right there. They're just sitting right there. And they just decided, because King Jr. decided to speak against segregation law, and because the Montgomery bus boycott brought success against segregation, it wasn't against European Americans. It was a victory. It was a victory for civil rights. And so now the bus systems for civil rights. So now the bus systems had put away their segregation. They put away the segregation bus laws and let anyone sit wherever. But there were some other things that they had to work on. So King Jr. did not stop there after the Montgomery bus boycott. He knew that there was still more work to do. He knew that he could not rest just on the victory, because he knew that there's going to be a next step. Okay. After the segregation laws were demolished and African Americans had their civil rights, and the Civil Rights Bill was signed in 1964 by Lyndon Johnson, who took Kennedy's place after Kennedy was killed, and think about it. Wow, Lincoln was killed and a new president started this whole segregation. Okay. Kennedy helped try to do away with this segregation. And after he was killed, Johnson took over, but he signed a bill that segregation was illegal. Civil rights is to take its toll, and everybody all over decided it is yes. Now, but King didn't stop there. He did not stop there. He continued. Now the next step was that now he had to deal with Lyndon Johnson, who thought that, hey, now that I did what King wanted done, and I agreed with his proposal, now he has to agree with my proposal for the Vietnam War. King said, no, I can agree with you on some other things, but violence is, I'm not going to compromise or put away my beliefs. Just because you did something for me doesn't mean because you didn't really do it for me, you did it for others. I'm not going to put away my beliefs. I'm not going to throw away and compromise my beliefs and turn out my light because you did something for me. This was, I cannot compromise that. And besides, I don't think King Jr. struck hands with Lyndon Johnson about this or made a deal. Now, I think the thing is that Lyndon Johnson, his leadership was he wanted to fight the war, but King Jr. was not about that. He was not about fighting war and plundering, okay? We only fight for freedom. We only fight as self-defense. We only fight because we know that there's something wrong. If it has to be with guns and weapons, that's just, it cannot just be used just for the fun of it, or try to show ourselves how strong we are. It should only be used for self-defense, okay? So that is why we need to learn how to get ourselves up to doing what is right, okay? King Jr. was not about to fight a war. And the tide of public opinion came against King, but King knew how to turn the tables. And then the tide of public opinion looked at Lyndon Johnson and went against him. Okay, so, but you know, the first 3 years into the civil rights, you know, King Jr. was working tirelessly to keep the civil rights leadership, to keep the civil rights going. He worked so hard up until, he would not stop. He would not stop. He went to Florida, you know, with the gentleman from the SCLC who was one of the lawyers, and a white guy in Florida in the South, and his daughter leaned her head on his shoulders with a lollipop in her mouth. Yeah. And it was so amazing how that happened. Now, and so in years past, so 3 years later, after the civil rights was signed, and Martin Luther King Jr. had given his mountaintop speech, the day after, of course, he died. But segregation law was already gone, and civil rights began to grow and everything. Of course, Lyndon Johnson was not in the habit of. Lyndon Johnson decided he was not going to run for second term as president, and King Jr. was very happy to hear that. He was very relieved. But what happened so that ended segregation. So now today, toxic relationships, toxic rulers, toxic jobs, toxic employment and slacking, what it does is ruin a person. It either brings them nowhere or it makes them worse. That is just nothing but weeds. Weeds are not there to help plants grow. Weeds are there to choke them and kill them. And then that's why us as Christians and Christian parents decide not to let their kids watch Disney or anything. That's why the Yippee TV is on there, because because kids need to get out of that toxic relationship. They need to be surrounded by things that will help them grow. And Disney helps them grow. Disney has now corrupted themselves with new teachings, okay? Sometimes government leaders would go into the house and say that how come kids are not learning about this and that? How come they don't know about Harry Potter or homosexuality? Or how come they're not celebrating our holidays? And you go, well, why are they still got the Bible there? Why are they not in our public schools and learning, and they're not at the level that we've set up for them? And I'll tell you why. Because you put some stuff into them. They want to see churches, not churches, but government leaders want to take their kids away from their parents who lead them the way of Christ, because their kids are not learning these toxic teachings.